was hurting, what I would do is hold them up in support, spot them, and have them practice just little bends. So they're feeling like this, and so if it really does hurt to lock it out, they can bend a little bit. It's not preferred, but because you don't want them to be in pain. So until they build that strength up.
Yeah. So what are so what muscles are they using? Mostly.
It's triceps mostly.
Okay.
To get their arms straight, and then you actually want a good support hold. Like at first, kids always do this thing, and you actually want them to get to be where they're like this, where they're sunk down in their shoulders a little bit, and they can just go up and down pretty readily. Okay. Because there's lots of different positions. Because if you think about holding a bar, where you want the bar to be is like right on your hips for any circling things, and you can't do it if you're pushing down. That's not a good position to be in to be circling.
So you have to make your arms
So you have to make them a little shorter, exactly. Okay. And for casting, it's the same thing. When they cast, any good kid cast, as they start to bend over, they do this with their shoulders, so they get a little bit extra pop. So it's with these little kids, it's teaching them how to do this, teaching them how to bend and push, getting them strong in that shapes. So but that's basically the first thing. And anytime you spot, another thing that's really important, I meant to say this at the beginning, is I always position myself, this bar's a little low for me. I actually like to be under the bar a little bit, because if they're gonna fall, you can catch them here. And but if you're on top of the bar, I always put my arm around the top of the bar, and I'm spotting them like up here. But you always wanna be on the side, and like really right in there. Like because if you're spotting like this is actually, we're much weaker like this. If you can get them like right almost at your chest and you're spotting them here, it's much easier to control and manipulate their body. Whereas if you're behind them, you can get kicked really easy. You're in front of them, you're going to miss them falling backwards. So on the bars, I always spot from the side usually.
I don't know what you're going to go into next, but could you show casting? I have a lot of issues with girls that just like push their chest out, and it's like I don't know how to get them to lift up properly.
I think some of that is going back to just some of the basic support position stuff still. But yes, I will go into casting, kind of what I do with that too. But the next one I want to do is kind of your basic circling things, which I think is what everybody's teaching, is like back hip circles, pullovers, things like that. And we'll start with pullovers. And so usually what I tell the kids to do first, so in this position, like the bar is too high for me, so I actually get down on my knees, and I'll say, you're not going to do a pullover, don't do a pullover. Okay, so first thing I want them to be able to do is I'll spot them here, and they have to be able to tuck and hold their nose to the bar. Tuck your knees up real high. Okay. Just so it's like this, and so you can get them there, you're like, oh yeah, make it a game once again, go ahead and come down. I always say, like, hold it for 5 seconds, awesome job, like, next step is try and touch your knees to the bar and do the same thing. So they're starting to flip over a little bit, and you want to be underneath their back. And then the next step is, now see if you can do that with straight legs. Touch your knees to the bar with straight legs. Now straighten your legs. So you see they're already starting to do straighten.
Did you see that?
Wow. And then from there, I'll go nose. I always say nose, knees, belly button. With straight legs, belly button. And you see it's already a pull. And now, this is where you guys run into a lot of kids. You're going to be upside down for a second. Where kids, because developmentally, their upper body is way heavier than their lower body before they're her age. Like when they're like Taya's age and things like that. So they can't actually get up from here. They get stuck. So what I do to help teach them, there's a couple different ways, is because I want them to do as much work as they can, but be safe and be able to do it, is I'll actually grab their legs, because they're used to standing up, and I pull them down here, and I'm like, stand up, stand up. So it teaches them to stand up, and I still have, and I usually grab here just in case the kid's going to buckle. And this is a pretty strong position here on their feet, to where if she bends her arms, I can hold her up. Okay, bend back forward. The other thing I'll tell them to do, because their center of gravity isn't right at their hips yet, is I'll actually try and tell them to pull the bar down to like here. And it'll actually start to flip them up to where they start to do that. So with pullovers, come down again. So that's kind of how I start to teach a pullover. And that might take a little bit. A kid gets scared upside down, that's great. They can touch their knees to the bar. And it's this gradual progression to where you're like, oh, now try and touch your hips. Try and touch your belly button when they're scared to go upside down. Because you get a lot of kids who get scared to go upside down, and immediately what do they do when they get up there? Take their hands off the bar and they reach for the ground.
Let's see it, yeah.
Can you do a pull over, Taya? Oh, so close. Here, come here. Let me help you.
You get stuck
Let me help
down.
you. Pull your nose to the bar. Nose up. Oh, yep, and you get that done too. So when you see it like with her, now you're going to have to get your hands off your legs.
Your hand over here.
And that was her limit right there, right now. So, but a lot of times with the little ones too, I just noticed that I actually put my hand on their neck too, a little bit, because it's a really strong support position. They're not going to twist, and they're not going to do things like that. So I'll hold them like that. Iceland, you're coming back here. I know. So that's basically the gist of a pullover, what I do with a pullover. Now, so what I want to do too is, so I'll be spotting them here, do a pullover. I'll have them go up, around, spot them to here, and then I'll actually have them learn how to flip back forwards. So you're going to go forwards slowly to where they learn control, and then bring them back down here. And if you see where my hands are, it's usually always underneath them. I always use both hands. One hand spot isn't really good for these guys because you just never know what they're going to do.
But as like a level 1 or an intro, they're not going to have the tight body ties.
No. So they're going to be all flailing and stuff. And that's pretty normal,
okay,
but you want to
right.
tell them. So tighten up, tighten up. Usually I don't let kids because if they're flailing, it's pretty dangerous for not just them, but it's dangerous for me too. So I'll take them back a step and I'll be like starting with just a pull up, pull your legs to the bar until they can do it tight.
But for a level 1 to get to level 2, they have to have a pullover back hip circle, which doesn't have to be.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be perfect, no, but it should be pretty tight. Otherwise, they're going to get hurt later on too. And otherwise, they're going to get somewhat. So some of the things that we run into is sometimes if we rush kids through too quick, what they do is, yeah, right now they're having fun, they're great, they're learning lots of skills. Then they get to level 5 and they're stuck because we have to go all the way back to like how are they doing support moves, and then they start to get bored and they start to lose interest in gymnastics. So instead of losing them at a young age, we lose them later. So it is important to really stress the form and the tightness, just because it's safer. It's much safer. We don't want to get kids hurt.
So I know that intro.
How do you now stand? Oh, turn your heads back around. Woohoo!
Intro is not the norm, and we have the smallest number of kids. But you know, I get 6, 7, 8-year-olds who have zero
Strength.
strength. And then I have some big guys, you know, like, and so, like, it hurts me, like, I mean, so should I just be doing more muscle
support
building?
holds, yeah, more muscle building support holds, and you can always come up with little fun things like jump up, jump down off a block where they're practicing just jumping up and down, and that's kind of fun. Forward rolls over the bar. Almost anybody can do just the forward roll, and it takes a lot less strength, a lot less of your spotting, a lot less of their strength, and it's going through the same motion as a pullover. It's just backwards.
Right. Okay.
And so it's a good way. And practicing, you know, trying to touch their knees up and things like that,
Yeah.
and making it more like games and things like that is good. So.
And then one other thing, boys' anatomy, is it an issue at all?
They'll let you know if it is.
Okay, all right. Okay. You'll get it.
I've definitely heard kids be like, ah!
I haven't had any of that.
and they learn. That's why it's better to actually get the boys on the bigger bars first, because it doesn't hurt as much. The metal bars actually hurt a lot more.
Oh, okay.
So.
I need the star bars.
Yeah, the star bars are good for that. So. Yeah, put it on their belly more, exactly. And eventually they just kind of learn. So, as a male gymnast. Sometimes it still doesn't feel good. But. All right, so any more questions just about the pullover itself? What else you would do? So those are kind of the basic things. Now, if I have a kid who's really afraid to go upside down, I'll actually have them do this progression, do a lever. Where they practice just going like this and come back.
What did you call that?
It's a lever. We call it added later on. You don't have to call it added. You can just go, oh, try and go upside down. And sometimes kids will get halfway and get stuck here, and that's it. That's all they're going to get. And so you can help them with that. So it's teaching them that kind of rocking motion, the going upside down, because it is important to start to do a lever again. It is important to develop this. Just being able to see their toes, stay tight. Of course, they're not going to look like this when they first do it. But she, at one point, wasn't like this, and so we had to train this in her, too. And being able to hold herself upside down. This is an upside-down support. Once again, it's the same concept. We're working a lot of support stuff, and being able to be comfortable upside down. Because that kind of leads into the next skill they usually learn, which is the back hip circle. But before we go to back hip circles, any questions about pullovers? Any other thing you think?
If we're having them do chin holds, they should not put their chin on the bar.
No.
Right?
I usually call it like eyeball holds.
Okay.
Because then they can't put anything on the bar.
Okay.
Yeah. And as they start to get better, you know, you can go lower, but you don't want them to rest their chin on the bar. Because you really don't want to develop too close to the bar. Because I have seen kids like where their strength is here, and immediately when they start to fall or something, they pull it to here, and what happens is wham, right on their chin. I've seen kids split their chin open doing that. So you want it more out here. Yeah. Eyeball holds, nose. I go nose. Touch or smell the bar. Like things like that. And the other thing you would do is if there was sometimes if you're like having a harder time spotting kids, what I would do is put like a block or a panel or a wedge or something up against a wall that they can crawl up, and I'm sure some of you guys have seen that.
Yeah.
That's a really good one just to get them to start to go upside down too and do the pullover where we don't have to work as hard. That's always a great station to set up off to the side, especially in the gym next door. You have that little bar, that movable bar. You put it next to a wall with a mat or things like that, and they can crawl up and over. And that's a good one. So.
And I use the rainbow mats under the smaller star bar and have them walk up it.
Yeah, and just like make a staircase, almost to walk up that.
Just to get them.
Yeah, to start to go upside down. It is important though, if you're uneasy about a kid going upside down, to make sure you're still there even on that, because I have seen kids just go, whoa, and land on their head. So. And if they're upside down, I always put my hand here on their upper back because I generally tend to have a lot more control. And if they slip off, their feet are going to come down. And they're not going to, whereas if my hand's here, they're going to flip forward further. So, yeah. All right, give me support. So for back hip circles, and I didn't actually teach Ice in her back hip circles, so we'll see how good she is at this. What I do usually first is I want them to be able to hold a good support, just like this. This is good enough. And then be able to rock back and forth. So they have to be able to do this before I even teach them a back hip circle. Pretty tight. And this is pretty good. Once a kid starts to do this, and you're like, you'll feel them going to get down, take a break. But as they start to go back, they'll start to go, ah! And then you know that's far enough for them for the day. So you just kind of play with them within their realm of comfortable. And then you kind of push it a little bit. Can we go a little bit further? What do you think? I think you can do it. And you kind of push them a little bit further. Because your goal is, get up and support again, is to actually have them be able to rock and just be able to do this. If they can do that with a nice tight body, that's usually all I do with back hip circles to start with. And I'm usually down here with a new kid still, so if she lets go, so let go. So I have it. So, and then from here, to teach the other part of the back hip circle, is you just push on their shoulder, watch their feet come up, hopefully they stay tight, and then you can push them right back up. And it's getting them to see if they can stay as tight as they can and straight as they can throughout the whole thing. And that's really hard to do. That I spend, go ahead and jump down. When I used to coach boys, I would spend so much time on just that. Just having them fall backwards and come back, fall backwards, come back, with trying to stay straight. Because once they get that figured out, the back hip circle is like a piece of cake. Because they've learned how to shift their wrist and push, they've learned how to stay tight without collapsing on the bar. Then you get rid of the back hip circles that go whoo, wham on the bar, which you see a lot of those, because they've learned how to hold the bar at their hips the whole time. All of that. We're going to do some fun stuff here. So I start with that usually where they go, I say, stay tight, look at your toes, keep looking at your toes. And the second they lose their toes, I usually stop them, if I can. Of course, if they're a bigger kid, they're going to be hard to stop. But she's doing a pretty good job of seeing her toes. And she keeps looking at her toes, comes back up. And then you can start to go fast.
So you're saying if they can't see their toes, that's when you stop them,
Yeah,
so they
actually
can
we'll
find
say,
them
oh,
again?
that's it. Yep.
Okay,
And then
because they
we'll
want to
go
be able
back
to see them the whole
Because they
time.
should be able to be looking at their toes the whole time.
Right, and you
'Cause
want
otherwise
that
you get
hollow
this.
body the whole way.
And when your head goes back, yeah, and otherwise you get this. And when your head goes back, your belly goes out, and then they're going to fall out and do some crazy stuff. And your goal is actually not to be, you start with them being hollow, and then it's actually straight, is what you're looking for.
Upside down?
Throughout the whole back hip
Oh,
circle.
really?
Straight is a better position.
Okay.
So, but that's a pretty advanced position for kids to learn. It's much easier than to hollow an arch instead of straight. Straight is really hard to teach. But that's our ideal back hip circle is a perfectly straight body that goes in a circle. And I will actually do back hip circles like this without any casting for a really long time. Because then it just makes it easier. They actually start to learn how to get it themselves. And then and then you add the casting and they're like right around. Or I'll do this, jump up and support. Start in an arch. So arch your back, which feels up. So you have to teach them kind of how to do these baby casts.
Oh, right, without putting their hips
Without
off the
lifting
bar?
their hips off the bar. And then what you do is you have them start here, and now you're going to do back hip circle. Get ready, go. So.
I like that.
And so it's teaching them that. Because what happens is when they start to get their hips off the bar, they start to go before their hips hit. And so, and that's a common problem that almost every kid has if you start the cast back hip circle too soon, is they don't get their hips back to the bar. So I'll actually have them, once they're learning cast, go cast, 3 casts, stop, back hip circle.
Okay.
So they're learning to get their hips back up. And doing the back hip circles fast like that, that's kind of advanced too. I mean, that takes a little bit. And then, of course, if you have a really talented kid who can get up there, get ready. Are you ready? This is going to be fun. You got to stay tight. Let's go. Yeah, we're going to do like 3 in a row. You start doing them fast. Okay? And if they can do that, they're ready to do like clear hips and all sorts of bigger skills. So that was really good. Good job. Let me think, what else do I do? Back hip circles. That's about it for back hip circles. I mean, that's really generally how I do the back hip circle progressions. I usually don't have them do it from casts until I'm pretty confident they're solid and they're strong and because otherwise you're, like I said, you're gonna have kids crashing on the bar and you trying to spot them and they're flailing and all that. So, and when you spot them, once again, most of your spotting on bars is right here. Is legs and back. So that way, if they come back, if they go backwards and the kid freaks out, let's go, let go. Whoa, I have it. Okay, just like cradle. But if I'm too far away and I'm out here, that's really hard to hold them up. So you want to be pretty close to them. Let me think.
Chris, do we want to do any practice spotting
That would be
before
good,
moving on?
actually, yeah.
Would that be helpful?
She's going to be easy to spot. She's not real light because she's strong, but she's easy to spot because she's super tight.